Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a lesson on personification, and this is for those of you who are absent or you were just having internet issues, because I know a lot of you are having issues this week. So the objectives for this lesson are I will be able to define and recognize personification and figurative language. We should be able to discuss and we should be able to give an example of personification. So the second objective here, it was an in-class activity that we did, but you and I can pause and discuss right here watching this video. So when I tell you to pause, go ahead and pause and try to answer my question that I ask you. So the reason we are talking about personification is because of our poetry unit. And our unit 3, which is about animals, it uses a lot of figurative language, such as similes, metaphors, and alliteration, hyperboles, and of course, personification. Remember this chart from last time. Let me pull it up real quick. So on the right here are our poetry tools, and here is personification. Whoops. So in green, there's personification right there. Let me circle that for you. So personification is when you give human traits to something that is not human. And remember from what we learned before about poetry and figurative language is that figurative language is language that is not literal. It's very colorful. Hence all of these colors here, because all of these figurative language tools, they give color and more fantasy to our sentences, and it makes it just much more imaginative. So personification is a cool one because we are humans, and when we give human characteristics to things that are not humans, it lets us relate to it a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and learn about that and solidify our knowledge. I know we touched on it a little bit before, but today we're going to really master it. So I really want you guys to learn the definition of it and be able to give me an example of it. That should be your goal by the end of this lesson. So again, personification means giving human traits to an object. When we write, as you can see, the root word person is in personification, which is another way to say human, because we're giving human traits to an object that is not human. So here's an example. Lightning danced across the sky. What did the lightning do? It danced. Well, this word, a human could dance as well, right? That is what we call an action verb. So an action verb, remember, verb is a word that does something. It's a type of activity. So when you're doing something, you are using a verb such as ran or run, you walked, you said. Anything that you do or did is a verb. It's an action word. So the action verb in a personification sentence is usually the human trait. Now, if we look at the next slide here, lightning danced across the sky, right? That's the one we just read. Can lightning actually dance like a human does? No, but people dance. Lightning can't. So when we say lightning danced across the sky, what does that really mean? What is the writer talking about? Pause and think about that for a second. Okay, so now that you've thought about it, lightning danced across the sky. Now, why would the writer say that? Why can't they just say the lightning struck the sky or something, right? Well, I think he's saying that because look at how spread out that lightning is. It looks like it's actually going side to side and moving like a person would. It's actually looks like it's doing some ballet to me. So what the reader is trying to tell you is that, you know, if you were to watch lightning in real life, it actually moves from side to side, not it doesn't just stay in one place. and it kind of branches out like an arm almost. So all of that description I just said is giving human traits to something that is not a human. Lightning isn't alive and definitely not a human, but we can identify some features like an arm or the way it moves and what it's doing and relate it to a human, which is the action verb right here, dancing. Dancing means movement. So when we say lightning danced across the sky, we mean that lightning is moving and going in different places, kind of like these dancers here. So they look like interpretive dancers, and as you can see, their arms are moving all across. So if you look back at the picture here, you can see why the writer compared the two. So the writer is just trying to make their text more colorful and less boring. The writer could say lightning struck the sky, but that is not as fancy as saying lightning danced across the sky. So again, that is a use of figurative language because we don't mean that the lightning literally danced like a human does. We mean it similarly danced. We're comparing it to the action verb dance like a human does. Okay, so it's not to be taken literally. We are to find meaning out of that. And here we go again. So just putting that definition in your head, personification means giving human traits to an object. Root word person. Okay, so here are some examples I have that I got from your class. Now, I want you to pause and identify the action verb in these sentences. Okay, so here's one example. Rudy's dog begged me for more treats. Now, what do you think is the action verb here that a human could do? Is it the word Rudy? No, that's a noun. We are talking about his dog. What did Rudy's dog do? He begged me for more treats. Humans are capable of begging. That's when we ask for something, or you go ahead and ask your mom for your more allowance money, or maybe for a new toy. So because this subject that we're talking about is a dog and not a human, and we are giving it the action verb begged, which is a human characteristic, this is an example of personification. Rudy's dog begged me for more treats. That means he really, really wanted more treats. And look at the sadness in his eyes. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. My thing froze. One second. Okay, sorry about that. So let's look at the next slide here. So here's another example of personification. It says, Chavi's toy clown was staring into my eyes. Well, what is an example of the action verb here? Can you pause the video and find the action verb? What is a word that a human could do? Good, staring. Staring is the action verb in this sentence. Chavi's toy clown was staring into my eyes. Can a clown really stare? No, not like a human does because his eyeballs are not real. So this is an example of personification. We are giving a human characteristic to Chavi's toy clown. All right, let's look at another example. Miss B's laptop speakers were talking gibberish. Now, remember when I had that bad laptop and the speakers were being all weird? Well, this is what I mean. It sounded like gibberish. So, what do you guys think is the action verb here? Talking, right? Talking gibberish. Miss B's laptop speakers, my speakers are the subject. What were they doing? They were talking gibberish. Now, can a laptop really talk? No, not like a human does. Talking would make this sentence a personified sentence. I'm giving a human characteristic to my laptop. It was talking gibberish. Could I understand it at all? It was doing random noises. And that, I'm glad I got a new laptop because I could not hear you guys at all because it was doing so many random noises. Okay, sorry. So let's look at the next example. Valeria's birds were singing a beautiful tune. What were Valeria's birds doing? They were singing a beautiful tune. Her birds are the subject, and the human characteristics we're giving them is singing. And these are little, I think they're little parrots. So these parrots, this is the human characteristic because humans are known for singing. Birds usually chirp, especially these ones. So Valeria's birds were singing a beautiful tune. We're giving a human characteristic to an animal in this example. Okay, so I just personified that sentence. Okay, so we already watched this video on personification last time. We're not going to watch it again, but I just want you to remember that there was an example in here that talked about the wind howling. That's why this tree has an eyeball on it, because they were personifying it and they were saying, the wind was howling in the night. Howling is a action verb that a human could do, and it's a human characteristic. So why do you guys think writers use personification? Let's pause and think about that. Okay, so in class, we typed in our answers. So make sure that you use the student face slides to type in your answers so you can get credit just like we did in class. So personification is a fancy way to say something. We call it figurative language. So remember that figurative language is language that is not meant to be taken literally. It is more fancy and colorful, and it gives more imagination to our readers. So again, similes, metaphors, hyperboles, alliteration, and personification are all examples of figurative language. And again, in our poetry unit, as we go into it, we are going to be using a lot more examples of figurative language and identifying it. And there is going to be a lot of examples of personification in the upcoming poem that we're going to read. So this will give you a good solid knowledge on it, and maybe you can identify some as we go along. Okay, and then this one right here is the last example that we have. If we say the garden was begging for water, it means that the plants needed water. You know that plants can't talk, right? So that would be an example of personification because the garden is the subject and begging is an example of an action verb that a human could do. It's a human characteristic given to an inanimate object. In this case, it is a plant, which is not a human. So the meaning of this sentence is that, the plant really needed water. Maybe it was really, really dry. But, it's not really talking, but again, this sentence makes it colorful. Okay, and then we are going to skip that one. And the quiz on personification was actually a time to climb lesson. And I'm going to skip this one, but remember to answer those 3 questions on the student face slides. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson of personification. Remember to also do the group work activity if you didn't do so already on Schoology. It is right here. It says personification group work, and also you're going to need a 90 SMART score for your Excel in figurative language. So again, today we learned about how non-literal meaning can come from personification and how it makes your sentences more colorful. And also, we learned some examples, and in this group work right here, you'll learn how to come up with some of your own examples, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and give yourself time right now to kind of rate how do you think you did with these objectives. I'm going to pull them up for you. So, did you achieve the goals in this lesson? Do you know what personification is? Do you know what figurative language is? Would you be able to give me an example of personification? And did you pause and reflect when I told you to? And discuss with me? Go ahead and rate yourself. And that concludes my lesson. Thanks, everyone.